Welcome back to my channel everyone. Today's tutorial is this neutral smoky eye with a diffused winged liner. I'm going to be starting off with the eyes, so I'm taking some Scotch tape and I'm going to rub the stickiness off on the back of my hand first, and then I'm going to place this underneath the eyes. So slip the Scotch tape underneath your lower lashes and place that on the very outer corner, angling it up towards the end of your eyebrow. I'm starting off by taking Benefit's Erase Paste Concealer. We're going to use this to neutralise the skin on top of the eyelid. This is a camouflage concealer and it works best if you use your finger to apply it because it warms the product up so it's less thick and blends out evenly. This is also a great concealer for underneath your eyes for brightening. Now I'm taking some tissue and I'm blotting over the eyelid to soak up any excess moisture from the concealer. Then I'm just taking some translucent powder and setting that in place. Using the tissue first is going to help to make sure we don't get any creasing from that concealer. First eyeshadow I'm going to be using is Wedge from MAC. This is soft beigey taupe and it's a matte finish. I've dusted some of that colour onto my ZOEVA 228 blending brush, and I start by working that colour from the sellotape onto the socket of the eye. So you just want to make sure you're definitely getting on the edge of the sellotape so we get that nice sharp wing, and then pull that through the socket. As it's quite a soft muted shade, you will need to apply a couple of layers. The next colour I'm using by MAC is called Mystery. This is another matte finish and it's a slightly deeper brown taupe shade. I'm still using the same brush, only this time I'm concentrating that colour more on the outer edge, and as you can see I'm building it up to make it more intense. I'm not going quite as high as I did with Wedge, but when I use what's left on the bristles I will fade that up into the colour Wedge so we get a nice transition between the two shades. Imagine a horizontal line directly from the highest point of my eyelid going outwards. That's the imaginary V shape that we're going to be working in. We don't really want to be taking our initial colour higher than that, but we can use what's left on the bristles to fade the colour upwards so we get a nice gradient. Next I'm taking MAC's eyeshadow in Satin Taupe. This is a frost finish eyeshadow, so it's got a shimmer to it. Still using the same brush. This time I'm applying this to the mobile eyelid, so a bit lower than the socket, so we're going onto the actual eyelid itself, and the highest point is going to meet that socket where Mystery is. Using another MAC eyeshadow, this one is called Smut and it's a satin finish and it's a neutral brown shade. Using my ZOEVA 317 angled liner brush, I'm using a feather-like motion to flick the eyeshadow off of the sellotape onto the skin to intensify the outer wing. This is going to help to create a nice gradient when we start to do our diffused winged liner. Going back to my Benefit Erase Paste and my MAC 242 shader brush, I'm softly redefining the socket area on the front half of my eyelid. Don't worry about making this line too crisp, it doesn't have to be a cut crease. It's just so that when we use the light eyeshadow that we're going to use next, it will be a lot more visible, but it will also make our eyelid look a bit bigger because we've made that area a bit more defined. Once you reach halfway across, use your finger to tap that concealer in so you can't see where it finishes. Over that we're going to be applying MAC's Naked Pigment. This is a beautiful creamy beige with a pearl finish, and the brush I'm using is the ZOEVA 234 Luxe Smoky Shader Brush. This is the best brush to apply a pigment with because the bristles are quite tightly packed together, so you don't lose the pigment in the bristles, instead it just packs the colour onto the eyelid. I'm also taking a very small amount of that underneath the arch of the eyebrow, then just make sure you really work that in backwards and forwards with the bristles so it's not too intense, but it just catches the light. Using the same brush and pigment, I'm also applying a small amount of that on the inner corner of the eyes, making sure we go across the tear duct too. I'm now removing the tape, making sure I'm holding onto my skin with my finger as it's quite delicate here. For eyeliner, I'm using Inglot's gel liner in number 77, which is black, and I'm using a paintbrush to apply it. Starting at the inner corner of the eye, I'm working this all the way along the lash line, very close to the root of the eyelashes. It's easier to do a very thin line all the way across, and then you can build it up to the thickness that you desire. For the wing, we've already got our guide, so we're just following along the line that we've created with the eyeshadow and the tape. If you'd like to see eyeliner in more depth, I do have a tutorial on that which I will link on screen for you. We're creating a nice point at the inner corner of the eye and then pulling that backwards, covering the tear duct as well. This will create a feline appearance to the eye, making it look very feminine. I'm now going along and neatening up, thickening the outer wing, and I'm also going to take that along the waterline. Next I'm going in with the Colossal Big Shot Mascara by Maybelline. It's very rare that I find a mascara that I absolutely love that is high street and so affordable, but this is the one that I'm using daily at the moment. So as you can see, I like to coat both the front and back of my eyelashes and give them a good wiggle from the root all the way to the tips. Going back to my ZOEVA 228 brush and the eyeshadow Wedge, I'm running this underneath the lower lash line. We're now going to mimic the same eyeshadows that we've got on the top lid but on the bottom lid so we get that nice framed appearance to the eye. On my ZOEVA 230 pencil brush, I'm running Mystery over Wedge, and I'm taking that all the way along the lower lash line. Now I'm going in with my favourite black eyeshadow. This is Natasha Denona's Blackest Black. And going back to my ZOEVA angled liner brush, I'm going to start feathering this colour over the black winged liner that we've applied. And I'm feathering this from the tip of the wing to halfway across the eyelid. Using the very tip of my pencil brush with what's left on the bristles, I'm creating feather-like strokes over that black eyeshadow to soften the very edges, and this is going to create that diffused appearance to the wing. I'm retracing my steps with the black eyeshadow, making sure I also go over the black gel liner that we applied. By reapplying it, we're sandwiching the colours over each other so it lasts, but also we're re-intensifying that black. Then I'm going back in with my pencil brush and again softening the seams. Going back to my angled liner brush, I'm now applying some of that black along the lower lash line, concentrating that colour between the lower lashes, so I'm wiggling my brush to get right to the root. The falsies I'm using today are by Esquido, and these are called Lash Named Desire. And I've chosen these because they're shorter at the front and they wing out at the outer corner. You can use the discount code Shonagh at the checkout for 15% off. For the lower lashes, I'm using these ones by Red Cherry in the number 104. And in the UK, I got these from falseeyelashes.co.uk. If you haven't seen it already, I actually have a tutorial on eyelash application which includes bottom lashes, top strip lashes and individual clusters, and I give you tips and tricks on my application methods. Moving on to face, I'm using NYX Total Control Drop Foundation. There's an amazing 24 shades in this foundation range. The idea behind this, to make it slightly different from others, is that you can control the coverage that you want. With just a couple of drops it can be a very sheer foundation, or you can apply more for a full coverage foundation. The finish is velvety matte, so it's not completely mattifying but also it's not dewy. It's advised that you use a buffer brush to apply it, so I'm using the ZOEVA 103 buffer brush. I'm now going in with a darker shade from the range, and I'm going to use this a bit like a contour but not so defined, just to work around the hairline, around my cheekbones, a little bit down the sides of my nose, and just create some more shape to the face, because when you use a foundation it really does make you look very blank. So initially I'm working that in with the ZOEVA 110 face shape brush. Then I'm going back in with my foundation brush and stippling that over it to blend it into the skin. Using a stipple motion is definitely a better way to work it in. Sometimes when you work it in circular motions you smear that contour colour all over your cheeks, which ends up giving you that muddy appearance. Instead you want to blend it in exactly where you've applied it, and using a stipple motion is going to allow you to do that. If you start working it in and it feels overwhelming and it feels like it's going everywhere, just stop, clean your brush off onto a clean piece of tissue and then carry on working it in. The reason we take it around the hairline as well is because this is where the sun naturally hits, so if you get that bronzed appearance to the top of your forehead, it's going to look more natural than if you just cover it in one colour foundation, which is going to make your skin look very flat. So you need to bring that life back to your skin by adding a bit more colour around the circumference of your face. And just keep working it in until you're happy. I recently received this little beauty from Soap Brows. Using clear soap helps to give you a nice groomed appearance to your brows. It sets the hairs in place and allows you to fill your brows in for a nice natural finish. I'm using a small amount of water with mine, but you can use a little bit of setting spray. You really only need a small amount. Although my spoolie looks like it's got tons on, I've actually wiped all the excess off of the side that I'm using. I'm just combing my natural hairs upwards, and then as it starts to dry I go back over it again. Soap Brows kits are all natural ingredients, they're against animal testing and they're vegan. Now my hairs are set in place, I'm going in with my Diego Della Palma eyebrow pencil to fill in any sparse areas. The weakest part of my brow is across the top, it's the lightest area, so I do tend to fill this in a little bit more. This is what frames my eyebrow and gives it the most shape. My Diego Della Palma pencil is number 13, which I believe might be the darkest shade, so if your eyebrows are a lot darker than mine it might be too light for you. The blush I'm using is Duo Glow by Natasha Denona in Alba. This part of the tutorial was a bit rushed as I had a family emergency, so I kind of just rushed the last part, so I do apologise. The lipstick I'm using is Estee Lauder's Insatiable Ivory. It's quite a nice one for this neutral look. If you're not a fan of nudes, then you could definitely try something else, it's just whatever your preference is. And that completes my neutral smoky eye with a winged diffused liner. If you've got any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you missed last week's tutorial, it's on screen now, and you can also subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you'd like to follow me outside of YouTube, my social handles are on screen now. Thank you for watching and I'll see you again soon. Bye!